I think the best place to be in Africa is Kenya. Why? Because number one reason is that Kenya is the capital city of Africa. And Kenya being the capital city of Africa, it owns the most tourism attraction sites where we have wildlife, we have got the shows, and we have got the natural sites. Two, Kenya as the capital city of Africa, Kenya has got a good infrastructure. You will dearly appreciate the roads that Kenya has, the railway system, and even the airways. So Kenya has got a good infrastructure that will easily facilitate the movement of the visitors from one place to another. Another thing is that a lot of businesses are operating in Kenya. So Kenya basically is the city that has got a larger population of people who are young, educated, innovative, entrepreneurs. But the problem is that they don't have funds because the politicians, the leaders the politicians who call themselves leaders have decided to steal the money from the public. So there is no money circulation in the entire state that can help these young people to to start to start and run their ideas. Another thing is that Kenya, it's a good place for you because Kenya has got a higher stature of the technology development. Now, the technology in Kenya is at a good stature because you will find that 80 to 85% of Kenyan population are now familiar with the latest technology developments. They use phones, they use computers, they use the internet, so they are familiar and they know how to use, and this is something that they are familiar with. So you will find it easy to access far places away from you while you are in Kenya. The only problem in Kenya is that few people who are squandering the Kenyan money, making it difficult for Kenyans to participate in their activities as they would wish. These few people are politicians who call themselves leaders. But lately, it's no a goes on for them. It's not easy for them to be sincere lately because there is this group that came to save the entire state from this rubbish. This group is known as the Gen Z. So, who are the Gen Z? The Gen Z is a group or a class of Kenyan people that are aged between 20 to 25 and maybe to 30 latest years old. These are young people of Kenya that are educated, well familiar with the technology, and well learned, well informed, and with wisdom. These are people who have gone to school, have scored straight A's in high school, have gone to campuses, and have scored first class honors, but they don't have jobs. Why? Because they struggle to go and then learn. But for you to land a job, where you want to land a job, you find that place is headed with someone who didn't go to school. It becomes so difficult for a learned person to secure a chance there because they also fear that your intelligence will get them out of job, so you won't find job. So these are people who are, after learning, irritated by the fact that they struggle to get jobs. Two, the leaders brag about their properties to them while The money the leaders used to buy these properties are Kenyan money. The leaders don't offer leadership. They don't offer service to Kenyans, but they work for their own good, for their families, and to get more money to accumulate. So you find life becomes more difficult. The Gen Z, the Generation Z now, the Generation Z, have always existed in Kenya. There is only one thing that brought them into limelight, and this was the fact that one, Kenya was suffering, there was no money, so basically their parents were really suffering, while the leaders they elected, claiming democratically, are not serving them but serving their own interest. Two, the evolving issues in the government, where you are not being served but you are pushed to the wall to pay some part of your money to the government in the name of revenue that will help develop the country, but in real sense there is nothing. You check at the infrastructure, there is no development, there is no maintenance, the entire nation is sinking. You check at the education sector, you find that nowadays the parents are struggling to pay fees for their kids. You look at the agriculture sector, you find that the fertilizers that are being given to farmers are fake. So the Gen Z, because they are intellectuals who have gone to school, analyzed this thing, and they knew that the government is not helping Kenyans. It was by coincidence that a bill, the Finance Bill 2024, was proposed that was adding taxes, that was proposing more taxes that would harm Kenyans. So, Generation Z took their time, went through the bill, and said this bill is not democratical. It doesn't abide by the law. First, it's going to overtax Kenyans. Two, it's allocating funds to places that are not necessary. Three, these are suffering to us, Generation Z, in the near future, in the future coming. So what did they do? These people never allowed this bill to go through. So in the first reading in the parliament, because the bill goes through 6 stages before it becomes a law. So what Gen Z did was very simple. They first got access to their MPs' contacts. All MPs' contacts they were able to find that were working, and they did text. So they were texting their MPs. Members of parliament are basically people they elect to represent their interest in the parliament. That is the National Assembly, where the laws are being made. These are the lawmakers. So they sent a warning to their member of parliament telling them, please, this Finance Bill 2024 does not abide by the law. It's a bullshit, it's a suffering, and it's like a prison to the entire Kenya. So we are asking you people to reject this finance bill. The MPs never listened, so the bill went through in the first reading. Second reading, the bill went through. So what happened? The Gen Z now realized that they are on their own on this issue, that they didn't have their representatives representing them in the parliament, in the government, but only serving their interest. So this was the start the start of disagreement and war online and physical and protest demonstrations on the streets. This was the beginning of the war between the government and the Gen Z. So the Gen Z decided that, okay, alright, you people are not going to listen to us, fine. So we are going to meet, we are going to discuss the way forward, having in mind that we don't have people standing for us in the government. It is us and only us, and this is our right. We have to fight for it. So there are several factors that led to success of the abolition of the Finance Bill 2024. One is online platforms. When I talk of online platforms, I mean Twitter Space, I mean TikTok, and I mean all other like Facebook, all other line meeting platforms that the Gen Zs were using. Remember, they didn't have a base of meeting physical. These people were meeting online. So the first thing was the social media. This enabled an easy meetup between the Gen Zs where they organized how they would attack and defend themselves for the government not to ascend the bill into the law. Number two thing that helped these people achieve their goal was unity. These people were united. They talked in one language. If they said that tomorrow we will be going to this place, it was tomorrow that they will go. For example, Occupy CBD. You see all the Gen Zs marching to CBD and occupying CBD. Another thing is Occupy Parliament. You see Gen Z marching through thick and thin, and they are occupying Parliament, ending up burning some part of the Parliament. So these people were united. These people were united. So good. Number three, these people refused the archaic culture, the culture passed by time of the tribalism. These people said we are tribeless, and so we are going to fight this thing together. That we are not going to consider whether you are a Luo, you are a Kikuyu, you are a Teso, you are a Luya. No, we are going to join hands because this thing is going to affect the entire Kenya, because the leaders listens to nobody. Another thing that accelerated their success was the fact that they were leaderless. And how did this actually help them? Now, people say that having a leader is an organized form. Yes, it is. But in Kenya, have ruined it. Because you come up with a leader, you provide your grievances saying, this is what we want. You give your leaders your grievances. They go meet the president, for example. Your grievances are not going to be sorted out. Why? Because they go meet with the figures, the bigger figures in the government. They are being bought naturally, or basically these people are being given money to betray you. So after they are given money, they come back to you. They tell you that we sat down, we talk, and this will happen. So we humbly request you people to pull back. Then you stop, and that issue just sink like that. A good example is that there were some rumors that our MPs were really paid to pass the bill in the parliament. That's one. Another example is the nurses had been demonstrating, have been boycotting jobs for now 2+ months by that time. And then recently the head meets with the government for some discussion. After that discussion, the head comes and tells the nurses, 1,000 people, that we've talked with the government. So what you need to do, guys, you need to get back to the job. How you don't explain anything? You people said you are coming from talking to the government and telling us to go back to the job, as if talking to the government has solved the problem that the doctors have. No. So that's why, or basically that's why the Gen Z didn't want the issue of having a leader. So I know you could be asking yourself how now exactly this thing was persecuted and how exactly it worked. Now, on the final day of voting in the parliament, the bill passed in the parliament. That day it was Occupy the Parliament. So this is what happened on that day. On that day the bill passed after the citizens have warned the parliamentarians not to pass the bill. It was on the breaking news that the bill has passed and now proceeding to presidential assent. This made the people of Kenya so hungry. They were annoyed, they were disappointed, and they decided that now this, even if it's a matter of death, let's die. Now after that, we see people march directly to the parliament. People were shot dead outside parliament premises. At the same time, some people marched to the parliament, the civilians marched to the parliament. So how do they march to the parliament? They basically lying on the ground as you make your moves. In the parliament, these people ate parliament, the food in the parliament, and they ended up burning some parts of the parliament. The MPs that were in the parliament that day, some escaped through the tunnel, the underground way to the parliament towers. Some that had already lived prior were evidenced running barefooted. So it was like basically a war that day. So more than one room was put on fire. Parliament was put on fire. There was another building that was put on fire. Several properties were damaged. So it was a day so that the bill will be ascended into a law. So these people boldly told the president that, kindly, Mr. President, if you want us to continue to proceed, don't ascend the bill into law. And they said that it's this day that the president is going to ascend the bill into the law. So what we are going to do is very simple. That day we are marching into the State House, and the president is stepping aside because serving us has defeated him. He can't serve the interest of Kenyans. He's just serving his interest and the interest of the fellow leaders in his government. So this brought about so much reactions, and the government officials had tensed. So before the day of the bill to be ascended into the law, the president had withdrew, making a press address in the evening. But the problem was that the president was never sensitive. Instead of recognizing the people who lost their lives and maybe mourning the people who were affected, the president boldly said that people who are responsible for the damages would meet the threshold in anger and in a body language that will show that this man is actually ready for war, and called actually the Gen Z criminals treasoners. So this brought more and more reactions. So it was like, okay, we are criminals, okay, we are treasoners. So on Thursday we are marching to the State House. We are going to make the president step aside because he has failed to serve us as Kenyans. So the following day things warm up, and the president apologizes. After the president had apologized, the president apologized and withdrew the bill at the same time. But things had already warmed up. So what did the Gen Zs do? The same day they had planned, they went out, demonstrated, because people had been killed and none of the leaders in the government would recognize this. That was so sad, and that's how the Gen Zs worked out their program. But the main thing that aided this thing to work out was the online platforms. Until date, there are a lot of changes, even though now the president have dissolved the CAS, the cabinet secretaries, This because these are the people who are surrounding the president. But after being invited into the one of the online platforms, which was SpaceX, he said that this was due to miscommunication by the people surrounding it. So we are out, we make noise, but the leaders assume that everything is fine. So they don't feed the information to the president about what's going around. So the president just decided to sack his cabinet secretaries, and the head of the police have also resigned. We see many people are resigning, and a lot is still about to happen. This will go down in history, I'm pretty sure. So that's how it happened.